Why, hello, you amazing, beautiful people. Welcome back to another solo leveling cut context reaction video. Ah, man, our boy AniNews is really cooking. AniNews just broke 670,000 subscribers, man. Watching AniNews grow, releasing these new solo leveling videos has been amazing, especially considering how much I love their content. So, huge shout out to AniNews. Go support them. Link to their channel is in the description. They are the amazing people that make this video. So, how about I stop talking? The last episode, episode 6, had so much incredible stuff in it. It was amazing. It was a damn peak episode. I swear that's what started my throat infection, man. Just yelling so much it had that damn reaction. So, I'm very, very excited to see what was left out, what's going to add context to it, what was missing, what are some things that we need to know. So let's delve into that, shall we? Press that like button, press that subscribe button. By the time you're watching this reaction, my guess is my episode 7 reaction is live on G.O.T Games, so go check that out. Unless I'm into my first time ever reaction to the AniNews' Solo Leveling Season 2 Episode 6 Cut Content.
It's no secret that Sung in the novel is a lot more aggressive. He takes things a bit more personally and really likes to flex when the opportunity comes up for him. This was no different during his fight with Tusk, and it creates for quite the entertaining bit of cut content. So, if you want to know the whole separate mission Sung was fighting for here, stick around as it's some of the most petty stuff we've seen from him yet.
It's petty.
There was also plenty more to
I'm invested. I'm invested.
Let's get started.
Already just having an opening where he goes, stick around because this is petty. I'm sticking around. I'm all game. I like a little bit of pettiness. Let's see.
Episode 18. Don't Look Down on My Guys.
Don't look down on my
chapters
boys, man.
72 to 76 from the manhwa and chapters 89 to 92 from the web novel. It looks like Jinho's cousin won't be getting her debut since that extra scene I mentioned could come out this episode didn't actually happen this episode. So, to quickly give you a rundown of what that was, it was essentially Jinho venting that he hadn't seen Sung in a week. Soo-yeon is the person Jinho is closest to, so it's not rare for him to have personal conversations with her.
So he was literally literally just missing him. He was like, I missed you.
pretty much crying over the fact
he
Sung had been ignoring him.
He actually
Sung
was
just climbing the tower dungeon, but
amazing.
That wasn't news Jinho was aware of.
That's hilarious.
Now, this scene wasn't just Jinho expressing his grievances, but was also a means to introduce him. The famous actor now turned hunter Lee Minsung. He was getting
the
lots
guy
of
at the
coverage
end of the
for his
episode.
upcoming evaluation. Soo-yeon, being a celebrity hunter herself though, already knew this was nothing more than for show. As it turns out, Lee's evaluation was already completed. Why then the big press conference?
I was literally just about to say, it seems bizarre that you would like let's say I'm a crazy celebrity and I'm gonna have an evaluation. Why would I put that everywhere when my evaluation could come back dog shit at E rank and it's just gonna kill my celebrity status, right? So you wouldn't, and I'm guessing that's why he didn't.
Well, that's because that's who he was. He was a massive attention seeker who would do anything to put himself into the spotlight.
Bro has got to be an S or an A rank then, right? He has to be. Otherwise it's completely pointless him even being in this story.
A person whose ego Soo-yeon wasn't very fond of. That's pretty much it for that, so to move on now to what we saw in the anime, let's start with when Cha arrives here. There were a few more scenes of her acting all anxious while looking for Sung. At first, she didn't really want anyone knowing why she was here, so for a solid amount of time, she kinda just hung out around the back.
She
would scout the miners and try to see if she could find Sung herself. It was when Sung didn't show up though, that's when she decided she would wait for him. 1 minute would turn to 3, then 5 would turn to 15, eventually leading Cha to get dejected and leave. Such a feeling only lasted for a short couple of steps though, since before she could even leave the site, Cha would quickly turn around and wait some more. It was only after all that waiting that Cha would finally ask about Sung.
I kind of like that. I think that's kind of that, because that's true. Indecisiveness is something that you don't really see in media, and yet it's something that we all have, you know? We're not all 100%, I'm going to make this decision. A lot of us are indecisive, you know? The other day, I went out with my wife, we went to the bank, and as we were walking back, couldn't decide what I wanted to eat for breakfast. I was like, should I go to this place? Should I go to this place? Should I get this? Should I get that? Simple indecisiveness, you know what I'm saying? So this, I feel like, is a good showcase of that.
This is where Cha would come to the conclusion Sung was far too suspicious, since even if she set aside the fact he magically found the boss room while getting lost,
man.
It's the fact he did get lost that doesn't make sense to her. I mean, Sung is a 4-year veteran after all. His actions here just didn't line up with someone who should have all that experience under his belt.
True.
That's why she felt the need to go in after him. She needed to know what it was Sung wanted with the Hunter's Guild.
What is it?
To go in without a weapon was unimaginable though, and it was a lot more cute in the manhwa when Cha had to double back and take the pickaxe. This brings us now to inside the dungeon where the full unrestrained aura of Tusk would be revealed to them. The manhwa exhibits this with panels of them dying, likely to highlight how easy it would be for Tusk to just kill them here. It still wasn't enough to break Ki-Hoon's spirit though, as the moment he saw Tusk distracted by Sung, that's when Ki-Hoon would pounce, thinking it was a good opportunity to strike. For a second, he actually believed it worked too, since his first few steps were met by zero reaction whatsoever. Like, with none of Tusk's guards even making a move to intercept him, Ki-Hoon truly felt like he lucked out here.
Nice work,
In actuality, Tusk was simply accepting Ki-Hoon as the first volunteer, leading to the beatdown we saw in the anime. The part of it we didn't see though was the resilience of Ki-Hoon to keep fighting through all of it. You see, even after getting tossed up and down 5 times over, Ki-Hoon still hadn't let go of his sword yet. He kept holding on because he refused to give up. Despite being up against such overwhelming power, Ki-Hoon still wanted to fight anyway. So it was after getting tossed.
You know what? I love that. I'm actually kind of disappointed that wasn't in the anime. That is a bit of a shame, but I am going to say that I love. Because you don't really have that kind of loyalty and love in the dungeons. We've seen, like, the darkness of the dungeons quite a lot at the moment. So to see maybe this is how the higher ranks do things and, like, the honor they have amongst themselves. I mean, even previously to this, they wanted Jinwoo to get out. They all put themselves in front of him. They tried to protect him. It's actually really refreshing, you know?
Ki-Hoon still wanted to fight
strengthen
anyway.
That attachment to them.
So it was after getting tossed 4 more times after that's when Sung would step in to save him. He would then ask the question he'd been patiently waiting for,
Will you
all while
marry
mimicking
me?
Tusk's attack on Tusk's own guard. The thing about Sung's attack though is that the way he did it was far more aggressive than the way Tusk did it. He would bounce the guard up and down like he was a basketball, having him hit the floor and ceiling way harder and faster than how Ki-Hoon got it. This made accepting Sung's request a whole lot easier because it was at this moment that Ki-Hoon was angry. He was angry at himself for being toyed with and angry at the monsters for toying with him. So it didn't matter who it was that was asking him. If they could put a stop to what him and his strike squad was going through, Ki-Hoon was happy to accept help from anyone.
But more specifically, to help Gina. We all know that this is all about Gina, and luckily, Gina was saved.
It was the exact vulnerable mindset that Sung was waiting for. Now, I don't know if it was the way Tusk treated Ki-Hoon or it was his comments calling Sung's abilities tricks, but the moment Sung got permission to attack, he became so much colder in his approach to everything. Before, he never really cared about the monsters he killed, but this was the first time he wanted to slice one up badly. In fact, Sung was so enraged by what Tusk had done that he decided he was gonna save Tusk for last. Since he was clearly capable of understanding enjoyment, Sung wanted to see if he could make him feel fear as well. This was the new objective under which Sung was fighting for now. Before we get more into that though, Woo showing up here was out of direct orders from the chairman. Normally, he would have tried to investigate Sung discreetly, but an A rank trying to remain undiscovered against an S rank was straight up impossible. That being the case, Woo deemed it best to just show up in the open. He would try to justify it the same way Cha did and make it seem like it wasn't weird for him to be checking up on him.
I love that, like, that wording, you know? He would try to justify it like she did and make it seem like it wasn't weird. He's like, this ain't weird. It's not weird, bro. I'm just here to check up on a bro. I'm a bro checking up on another bro. Nothing weird to see here. Why are you looking at me like I'm weird?
Naturally, he didn't want to come off as strange either.
Look, I'm pushing my sunglasses like a cool guy.
A lot of mental gymnastics were done to make it seem like it wasn't. It's a funny series of excuses that share the same anxiety as Cha. They're both really trying their best not to creep Sung out. Of course, the mere presence of the monitoring division was enough to make any hunter nervous, since if they were here, then that usually meant a hunter was in trouble. With their job being to arrest awakens that normal laws couldn't do anything about, the fact they were here now implied it could be to reform or eliminate someone. Such was the assumed work of the monitoring division. It was as soon as Woo got to the gate that he immediately knew the listed reading was wrong. He could feel Tusk's unrestrained power even outside the gate. This wasn't enough to warrant very much concern though, since with 2 S ranks already on the inside, Woo figured they should have it handled. That was until he felt another aura. As soon as both him and his less mana-perceptive associates felt powers so indescribably raw, that's when they knew the hunters inside might be in trouble. So, as hunters who were part of the...
Curious, isn't it? He was like, there's 2 S ranks in there, I'm sure they'll be fine. But then he felt the power and was worried for the S ranks? Making you wonder, how fucking strong is the dude that Jinwoo was actually up against, you know? Would an S rank... Like, if Cha was in there instead of Jinwoo, was she taking him out as easily? Or was she dying?
Monitoring division, it was now their job to go in and inform the current raid team exactly.
They did say in the episode, didn't they, that the other guy, the guy who's supposed to be the sword or weapon or whatever his name is, you know, Captain Weapon of the World, that he wouldn't have been able to do it on his own.
What they were dealing with. Typically, they did only manage hunters and watch them, but another part of their responsibilities was to aid hunters in their times of need too. The younger association hunters were certainly scared to do so, but despite not having to, they decided to follow Woo anyway. Now, for Cha, who was already quite deep in the dungeon herself, she was quite perceptive when it came to figuring out what had happened here. At first, she thought she simply underestimated her strike team, up until she noticed something odd. Almost all the orcs were injured by short, sharp weapons. None were fatally injured by them, but...
I'm gonna rewind for no other reason than I really want to look at the orc.
Were injured by short, sharp weapons. None were fatally injured by them, but they were hindered enough to limit their movements. They were clues that made it clear the strike team was celebrating victory over opponents someone else had prepped for them. She could also tell they were taken care of all by one single hunter. Aside from the 2 in this instance here, Cha could easily tell one person drove every orc to the brink of death. How then was such a feat possible? Well, that was the part she couldn't figure out yet.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
You see, even with all her speed and power, Cha knew that even she would struggle to fight 20 High Orcs solo. Combine this with the fact...
Honestly, one of the... I can't think of a better word, but that move is one of the most cool, badass, and hot moves ever. And I can't think of a better word to say. I don't usually say things like that, but it's true. Look at this.
Even she would
slicing that dude up, and then this drop and that pose, you know, look at her. She just looks like the ultimate damn person. Like, you're just like, god damn, look at that. That is a power stance and a half. Every time I see that image, I'm like, fuck me, man.
Combine this with the fact no one on Ki-Hoon's team even used daggers, and that made the only reasonable explanation Sung.
That guy!
Though
it was him!
Be certain
it was that guy at the back!
There were more than a couple clues indicating it probably was him. It was then that magic tremors could be sensed from deep inside the dungeon, exhibiting power unlike anything Cha had ever sensed before. If that was power that belonged to the boss, then Cha knew it was only a matter of time before Ki-Hoon and his team were dead. The thing about these tremors, though, is that none of it was actually from Tusk. There was that one portion of aura when he took his mask off, but the energy Cha felt here and Woo felt here, all of it came from Sung. It was the moment he had unleashed his shadows. Thus the reason it felt so incredibly different to them. The novel describes it as a wave of magic incomparably greater to that of Tusk's, so...
I thought it was Tusk. This whole time, I thought that was Tusk. That was Jinwoo? Holy shit. Also, can we all agree that turn, step, and walk from Jinwoo, where he leaves like a trail of shadows moving behind him, is so cool.
I believe that was the true terrifying power Woo and Cha felt earlier. For the mages present who were right next to it, such power was one they couldn't even consider to be magic. They weren't even sure that what they were feeling was magical energy anymore. All of it just felt so incredibly different to them. So, it was as all that magical energy filled the room that every hunter found it increasingly difficult to breathe.
But
they could only imagine the terror they would feel if they had to face such an aura themselves. Luckily they didn't, but for the High Orc warriors who did, these monsters known for their bravery began to back up a bit.
Oh shit.
Though it was 50 against 150, they were retreating from the dangerous pressure being emitted by some.
I will say, it does look way more crazy and Lord of the Rings when you look at that picture there.
And his soldiers. Now, when it came to the massacre itself, if you're wondering what exactly about Sung reminded the others of Cha, It was the way she jumped into battle and swiftly cut down monsters like she was performing some high-tempo dance routine. This had earned her the nickname Dancer, and now Sung was exhibiting movements that exceeded that. So if Cha was a dancer, then Sung was a typhoon. He was the center of a storm, obliterating absolutely everything in its path. Then where iron cut down with pure destruction, Igris did so with the utmost elegance. They were still able to synergize well together, and there was even a scene where Tank and Iron would do a thumbs up to each other.
Nice.
Now, it was when Tusk would cast his hexes that's when he fully believed the fight was over. Reason being that hexes were fundamentally different from regular magic. They couldn't be evaded the same way a spell could. No. The moment they were cast, that was it.
That's it.
Normally one would require purification magic in order to dispel a hex, but what Sung had instead was power greater than the hex itself, the only other means of defending against it. That being the case, Tusk began to think there was another shaman greater than him dispelling his magic. Not once did he think that it was actually just Sung's natural immunity. It was a moment later that Sung would finally engage Tusk himself, but not enough to fully kill him yet. He actually could have killed Tusk the instant the fight began, but because he wanted to instill fear into his heart before that, Sung decided he would simply play with him.
This whole time, he was playing with Tusk!
Ki-Yul and the others felt first.
Bro was going on revenge!
This was a bit harder than Sung initially thought though, because even after—
I'm gonna say, that doesn't seem like a petty reason. That seems like a pretty sweet reason,
killing his orcs
he wanted to get revenge for
Jinho. Hexes, Tusk's eyes looked alive. It was clear Sung needed to step things up a bit. So, that's when he would extract the shadows of the High Orcs, revealing a fate far worse than death for them. Where normally the—
How the fuck is that fate worse than death? You know, they get to fight for Sung Drip Woo, man. Like, I'm cool with that.
These High Orc warriors would have no problem jumping in against an opponent who was stronger than them. Now they were openly retreating. To see their dead comrades turned against them was far too much. It wasn't because the battle was 100 versus 100 now though, but rather the fact something precious was being denied from them. You see,
there was
to know that if they died, they wouldn't ascend to warrior
battle,
heaven, well, that was their worst possible nightmare. They were truly like afraid of becoming someone else's puppets.
Someone else's
this
bitch.
Was true for every High Orc present, and it remained true.
But they're already Tusk's bitch. They're either gonna be Tusk's bitch, or they're gonna be Jinwoo's bitch. And which one would you rather be? Psh, come on, we all know the answers to
for that. Their leader as well. Where only moments ago he still had fight in his eyes, now there were clear signs of fear. It just wasn't for the same reason as everyone else. What I mean is that something about Sung made Tusk recall an existence that could revive the dead into shadows. It was an existence of which there should only be one of, not two. That being the case, Tusk knew this human had to be him. Who is him? Well, that's a question I can only assume relates to this scene in the anime. For Tusk, it was a revelation leading to thoughts far more existential. Like, if Sung truly was the person he thought he was, then why was it that him and the other orcs were here in this dungeon? Nothing made sense when it came to the concepts surrounding their existence.
That does kind of line up with what he said. I don't even remember what it was, but he said something, which was like, he was like confused at the presence of Jin Woo. Almost like he did say that. He said him, right? Almost like he knew him and was confused as to why he was here. Like someone told him about Jin Woo. You know, oh, you must be this Jin Woo guy that someone's told me about. That is interesting. That was mentioned in the last episode, but I didn't look too much into it.
Instead, any thoughts of the subject were left completely empty. It was as if his brain had been wiped of all of it.
For a second I was worried about a spoiler there, but no, it was mentioned in the episode.
Which was exactly what Sung had wanted.
I just didn't look into it
His plan turned out to be a complete success. It's before the fight would come to an end, though, that an interesting interaction would occur between Sung and Cha first. Where in the anime, Sung doesn't notice Cha until after everything. The two would actually make eye contact right as she entered.
And she blew him a kiss.
At first, she was thrown aback by the incredible scene in front of her, but that came secondary to helping her strike team. As curious as she was to find out more about Sung Jinwoo, the safety of her comrades came first. It was a priority that involved jumping into the fight and killing orcs herself. It was right as she was about to do so, though, that's when she would make eye contact with Sung. A momentary exchange which would lead her to the realization interference wasn't necessary. In fact, Sung's gaze made it clear it was something she shouldn't do at all.
Oh.
She couldn't understand why that was, but something about his expression made it clear he was in complete and utter control.
And that's why
sure,
she
his
stood
summons
back in
probably
the anime.
had him low on mana, and sure 100 High Orcs and a boss were still left to be taken care of, but still Cha knew she needed to stick to the sidelines. Instead, the only thing she could wonder was how it was Sung was going to finish this. So, when Cha lowered her stance and resigned herself to the sidelines...
Reminds me of that, like, badass line where it's like, your audience members don't take the stage, you know?
That's when Sung could relax knowing things would continue the way he wanted. With all the work he had put in to get to this point, it would have been a real shame for Cha to step in and ruin all that.
I see.
Like, the man had even waited for Ki-Hun to drop his sword here, also he could be absolutely certain Ki-Hun would answer the question the way he wanted him to. He had suppressed his urge to kill the shaman from the very beginning because the most important thing was getting permission. Sung wanted everything and he went to great lengths to secure it. So, to know Cha would let him continue with what he worked so hard to earn, well, that was incredibly relieving. He could focus solely on the fight knowing no one was going to interrupt him.
No.
It's a pretty big...
You weren't going to, right? No, you weren't, and I wasn't going to? No, he's good, he can continue, he's fine.
Difference from how it goes down in the anime, since despite Sung knowing an S rank is watching him, he still proceeds to fight with his entire army anyway.
Yeah.
He even makes a conscious effort to make a show out of it. This, I think, highlights best the core difference between the Sungs of each medium because you can see exactly where their mindsets are at. One's completely focused on business while the other has room to flex and even play around a bit. Now, though in the anime it was the generals which finished the fight for him, in the novel all it took was a single punch. Tusk would ask if Sung still found things amusing, to which Sung would simply reply yes. It was a cold one-liner which showed Sung never took the fight seriously to begin with. In the end, Sung would gain 2 whole levels, acquire a brand new shadow ranking above Igris and Iron at the Elite Knight level, then also be able to store up to 127 shadows now. If you're wondering why Tusk was easier to acquire than Baraka,
yes, I was.
It's implied the success rate of extraction was dependent on the target's strength compared to Sung. So, since Baraka was a 3v1 Sung barely won, it makes sense then that his shadow would be harder to extract. Now, it was while Sung was being escorted back that he would act.
Also, Baraka seems like a character that would would be involved a bit too much, you know? That's probably why, you know? He's too much of a main character, you know what I'm saying? These other guys, not so much, don't have that energy. I have to say, also, it's kind of creepy when you think about the fact that all of them are monsters other than the one that isn't, which is a human that has been turned to just follow Sung Jinwoo everywhere. Yeah, that makes sense. So Jinwoo was probably just a lot stronger at that point. I mean, he did take out that guy easily.
Actually ask why Woo was doing this. Woo would respond by asking if he was planning to join the Hunters Guild, a question to which he already knew the answer to, but needed to ask anyway since it was the best way to identify the mistakes Sung just made. What I mean is that, by exhibiting above S-rank powers in front of employees of the largest and wealthiest guild in the entire country, Sung had just opened himself up to more of the annoyances he hated. His actions contradicted what he said he wanted earlier. This was a point Sung unfortunately couldn't help but agree with since there was no telling what length the Hunters Guild would go to secure another S-rank hunter. Yeah. Luckily, the association's interests lined up with Sung, so at the very least, the two could work together to avoid situations like this. It was before leaving that Ki-Hun would run up to thank Sung personally, because from his perspective, he had essentially saved them for nothing.
Yeah.
Not only did he request 0 compensation for his heroic efforts, but he also risked revealing his identity, which the association clearly wanted to keep hidden. That being the case, it would have been wrong for Ki-Hun not to thank Sung properly. He also felt personally grateful after Sung had killed that one general using the same method he was tortured with. Sung would then get one last dig on the healer girl before leaving, confirming my assumption that he really just doesn't like her for some reason. Cha would be the only one not getting to say what she wanted, since where she just wanted to ask to talk later, she wasn't even able to get his number. She felt if she asked, then her intentions might be misunderstood a bit.
Yeah, it does.
So instead she decided to say nothing.
That's kind of funny, because it would be. Hey, can I get your number? She wants to bang me? No, I just wanted to... He thinks I want to bang him, which I kind of do. I kind of do.
Sung's conversation with Jinho is something they'll show more of next episode, so that leaves us with this last scene with Choi. His face was certainly something when he found out Sung was acting as their porter, then more was said about how Sung is a stronger hunter than him. The way Ki-Hoon goes about contextualizing it is by explaining how in raids, roles were divided into attack, defense, and support.
Same way
It's
in the
without
anime.
all three working together that a team would usually find themselves in danger.
Yeah.
It's for that reason that raid teams are usually built the way they are. The weakness of one teammate gets made up for by the strength of another. What then happens when all three roles can be covered by a hunter solo? Well, therein lies the fundamental difference between Sung and Choi. It didn't matter how powerful Choi's magic was, because when a horde of monsters attack him all at once, there would be nothing he could do to defend himself. Such was a scenario Sung could easily take care of, so that's the—
Which actually makes sense when you think about his fight that we literally saw. He had someone else come in and use the defense, right? Makes sense.
Such was a scenario Sung could easily take care of, so that's the reason he can be considered stronger than Choi. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode.
Nice.
If you liked what you saw, then leave a like, and if you want to see more, then consider subscribing.
Fuck
I'll
yeah,
also
man.
be talking about next episode's cut content early on stream on Sunday, so feel free to follow me there for more content.
Boom, there you go.
Until next time, though, ciao.
There you go. Shout out AniNews. Link to AniNews' channel, of course, is in the description. Go give them a sub if you haven't already. Listen, AniNews should be on 700,000 subscribers by now, you know? The guy deserves it. Incredible videos. Worked when he was ill last week, you know? Put so much effort into every single one of these videos, so yeah. Make sure you go check out AniNews, you know? A wonderful freaking channel. God damn, man. As if I couldn't find this guy any more attractive, and I somehow do. I'm gonna be honest. People do get angry at me because I don't really have any loyalty when it comes to my attraction to the one and only Jin Woo. And I do get people that are always on my case. They're like, hey, you can't be calling other people good looking if you're calling Jin Woo good looking. And you know what? You guys are right. You guys are right. But I'm still gonna continue to do that. I do want to say, oh my word, Jin Woo. It didn't seem petty. At the beginning, it was like stated that bro was like doing all this because he was like petty and blah, blah, blah. Which it didn't seem petty. I guess maybe, but not really. You know, not crazy petty. He wanted revenge. That was it, you know. Obviously, he like manipulated the situation to a certain degree that was kind of messed up. And by kind of messed up, I mean very messed up. Allowing your team to be tortured in front of you just so you can get the answer you want is a little bit fucked. All right, let's be real. That's not a good thing to do. So the fact that he did that is a little bit sus. I love the stuff with Cha. I love what she was thinking. I feel like based on what we saw with AniNews, I do feel like that the episode did a very good job at conveying a lot of the anime stuff. I think the stuff they could have put in that wouldn't have really even taken up that much time is what the team leader was feeling and how he was acting and that sort of stuff, because it made him come across a lot more brave and renowned than I feel like he did in the anime, even though I do feel like the anime did also showcase that to a good status as well. But I feel like there's a few little touches here and there could have made it quite nicer. It also, understanding how strong Jin Woo actually was in this fight, how much stronger he was than Tusk, how much stronger he was in that situation, and even sort of like having that nail hit in the coffin even harder now when I compare it to the end of the anime episode as well, with that conversation in the office about soloing a dungeon. It really does highlight our boy, you know, in a really cool way. I am very excited for episode 7. If I'm being honest, I'm just super excited for every episode this season. But yeah, I am loving AniNews' extra videos. They really do add a lot more to the anime. And I'm loving the anime because I don't want people misunderstanding, thinking that I need these. No, I don't. I love the anime on its own. I just love it so much. I want more around it. And these are filling it out even more for me, you know? You know, it's like when you love a story so much you want to watch a spin-off, you know? That's what this is like for me. So yeah, I guess that's where my reaction ends. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. If you aren't already, maybe subscribe to this channel. We're trying to reach 100,000 subscribers. Maybe like the video and have an amazing freaking day. Go check out my reaction to episode 7 on the main channel, G.O.T Games. And as always, my friends, you will see me in the next video.